Hello and welcome to Brewers Daily, part of the Fan Arch Podcast Network. This episode is brought to you by Kalshi. Use promo code FANARCHBASEBALL to get $10 when you trade 10. Lots to get to here on the show today. The Brewers get another big win over the San Francisco Giants. We'll take a look down on the Brewers farm system as well at a couple of prospects, get some updates there. Some positive, some negative to get to. And also, who in the world is going to be starting today? We'll get into that coming up later on in the show as well, with Pat Murphy doing quite the tease on who it's going to be. But just talking about the win on Tuesday night here for the Brewers over the Giants, an 8-3 victory. The Brewers got out to a nice big lead early, 3-0. Thanks to Jake Bauers and a 3-run homer in the first inning, his 10th of the season. And then it started getting pretty close late. The trade of the day we had kind of been talking about on Kalshi with the Brewers plus 3.5 was looking like it could be in some trouble. But the Brewers offense came through late, and they were able to cover that and get that 8-3 victory and win by 5. And you get some really clutch hitting there from the top of the order. Christian Yelich coming through with some big insurance runs on a 2 RBI single. Jackson Chourio nearly goes yard. He ends up having to settle for a double. Bryce Terang then immediately turns one back around for a base hit up the middle. Brings home another run. The line just kind of kept moving. The Brewers put up 4 runs in the 8th inning. And they were able to get the big-time win there over the San Francisco Giants, and really just kind of taking advantage of a struggling Giants bullpen a little bit. Trevor McDonald was able to settle in pretty well for the Giants, their starter. After giving up that 3-run homer to Bauers, walked the first 2 guys, and it was like, okay, having some trouble there, and gave up the homer, but settled in pretty nicely after that, made it through 5 innings. But then the Brewers were able to kind of sink their teeth into this Giants bullpen and take advantage, and able to get a bunch of runs there and a bunch of help in support of Kyle Harrison, who's facing his old team. And Kyle Harrison just absolutely dominant, just absolutely making the Giants kind of regret trading him. Which is kind of what some of the San Francisco media was trying to get him to talk about. But I mean, Kyle Harrison's just kind of trying to stay focused on just kind of taking things one game at a time. Typical cliches on that front. But that's obviously going to be a storyline here, right? Because Kyle Harrison, drafted by the San Francisco Giants, came up through their farm system, made his debut with them, spent a whole bunch of time in that rotation before they ultimately traded him to the Red Sox for Rafael Devers. And then the Red Sox traded him a few months later to the Brewers, where he's now completely just taken off and has been an absolute stud. The Brewers have won 8 consecutive games that Kyle Harrison has pitched. Which is just absolutely incredible, especially when you think last year, Quinn Priester, the Brewers won 19 straight games that he pitched. Now the Brewers have another streak with another former Red Sox pitcher, but also former Giants pitcher here in Harrison. So he ends up going just absolutely bananas. 12 strikeouts in this game, over 5 2/3. Just absolutely cooking the San Francisco Giants. He was able to get a strikeout of Luis Ariz, who never strikes out. He struck out Rafael Devers 3 times, which was just kind of the poetic moment there, because remember, the Giants traded Harrison as part of the package to get Rafael Devers. So now, they've got Rafael Devers in there, and he strikes out all 3 times, facing Kyle Harrison, the guy that they gave away. So maybe a little tinge of regret in that Giants front office with Buster Posey. Maybe, just a little bit. I know Rafael Devers, really good player and all that, but that is going to kind of sting a little bit when the guy that you traded away absolutely eviscerates the guy that you traded him for. That does kind of sting. Rafael Devers, tough night. 0 for 5, 4 strikeouts. And the one ball he did put in play, big opportunity, big chance with runners on, and grounds out to second. So Tough night for Devers. Tough night for the Giants. Tough season for the Giants, really. They've been going through it. I mean, they were like 15 games under 500. They got some big names over there, but they just have not been able to play all that well and get some wins. So really kind of struggling in that first year of Tony Vitello, and then you just kind of get that little sting when your former prospect, your former player Kyle Harrison, just absolutely lights you up. And on the Brewers side of things, it's absolutely beautiful. It is absolutely a joy to watch on that front. So Kyle Harrison, really, we need to be talking about him as much as we all talk about Jacob Mizorowski and how great and electric he is. We got to be talking about Kyle Harrison in that same kind of vein. I mean, in terms of limiting runs, he did lose that scoreless streak at 23 and 2/3 innings that had stretched over his last 3 starts. Almost made it to 4 straight starts without a run. But in that 6th inning, he gives up a home run to Willy Adames that just hits the top of the fence and bounces out in left field. That ends the scoreless streak there. And then gives up a walk to the next batter, and then it's like, okay, that's it. You're done. Get him out of there. 106 pitches for Harrison, so he's able to get some length there as well. Obviously, took him a lot of pitches to strike out 12 batters, but couldn't quite make it through 6. But still an electric outing there, and his success just continues to build on it. And it was, again, primarily a fastball slurve combo for him. Only like 6 changeups, and I think one sinker was registered there, which was probably just a mislabeled fastball. But still, only a handful of changeups, primarily fastball slurve. And I asked Kyle Harrison about it, and just kind of what that means for how his stuff has been playing, and he's like, yeah, really, that just kind of means I need to work on my changeup more, and that's all I'm going to be working on, because he still wants to have that kind of complete arsenal of pitches, but to have that success with just 2 pitches, and to be able to make it that deep into a game with just 2 pitches primarily. That says quite a bit about the quality of his stuff. His fastball, obviously, fantastic. And then the slurve, it tunnels so perfectly with that fastball. I mean, the baseball is more than halfway to home plate, and it's looking in the exact same spot as where that fastball is, and then just tails off in completely different directions. So that's what makes him so effective. That tunneling effect, being able to hide that slurve so well, where you don't know if it's a fastball, you don't know if it's a slurve. It's looking the exact same almost the entire way, and that's how you get a whole bunch of swing and miss, and that's how you end up being as good and as dominant as he's been. And he hasn't had to use that changeup much. To be able to go 5 2/3, only giving up the 1 run, striking out 12 with just 2 pitches, not having to go to your 3rd pitch all that much. That says quite a bit about the quality of stuff that he has. And obviously his mindset is, I've got to be better with that changeup. He's not just focusing on, oh, wow, that fastball slurve is really good. Obviously he can recognize that those pitches are working well for him, but he's still wanting to work on that changeup, and continuing to improve it. Didn't really kind of feel like he had the best command of it. He didn't have the best feel for it on Tuesday night, but that doesn't mean that he won't continue to have that improve in the future. So if he can add that as another just kind of weapon in the arsenal that's more consistent there to keep hitters off balance, whew, boy, you really got to look out. I mean, we got to be talking about this dude as an all-star. We got to be talking about him as a potential Cy Young contender. I know Jacob Mizorowski is going to take the bulk of that from this team, but Kyle Harrison with some down ballot Cy Young votes should not be out of the question here, and it may not even be that far down the ballot, but just saying. All right. Just got to also bring up that on Kalshi, you can trade every single game. And as we talked about with this last game, Brewers plus 3.5, that was 25%, I think it was, and ka-ching. So let's maybe look at some things again here. I wonder if we're going to have a market on who in the world this starting pitcher is going to be, but probably not. I don't think so. But we're not going to be trying to look into those games at this point right now. But with the Brewers taking on the San Francisco Giants here for the third game in this series. Can they do it again in this one? So I'm looking at the Brewers offense. They've put up a whole bunch of runs in this series, 16 runs in the first game, 8 runs in the next one. If we're looking at the Brewers to continue to score a whole bunch of runs, Brewers over 4.5 runs scored. That is currently trading at 45%, which means if the Brewers are able to score over 4.5, that means a $100 trade pays out $205 and some change there. So that is some pretty good chunk of change for the Brewers if they can score 5 runs off, well, Robbie Ray, who has been really good. But also, it doesn't necessarily have to be Robbie Ray. Once you get into that bullpen, that Giants bullpen has been a mess that the Brewers can get into as well. But we're feeling strong about it. We're feeling good. We got to go into this with confidence. And that's how we're going to see this come through, because on Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use promo code FANARCHBASEBALL to get $10 when you trade 10 KALSHI Kalshi trade on anything. All right, I wanted to take a look now at the Brewers farm system, and just kind of a couple of notes and nuggets that I kind of noticed just looking over the games here for the Brewers. Luis Pena left the game for the Timber Rattlers early with an illness. Now, if you remember, a couple of weeks ago, Luis Pena was lightheaded and lost consciousness in the dugout for the Timber Rattlers. Ended up having to be taken to the hospital. Excuse me. And, being dehydrated, things like that. So he'd been out for a couple of weeks, just kind of making sure everything was all right there. Comes back, has been playing really well since being back on the field, but then leaves the game with an illness. That's what we have heard. Nothing more necessarily on that front that we know of, but Luis Pena, something to keep an eye on, something to monitor there as well. The Brewers' number 2 prospect in this system has been having a really good season with High-A Wisconsin. Just you are concerned about his health there when you have that one episode, and now to leave a game with an illness, that is tough to see. Also, leaving the game for the Timber Rattlers in what was an absolute barn burner at the end. It was 14-11, I think, the final score. But J.D. Thompson, the Brewers draft pick out of Vanderbilt last year, the left-handed pitcher, he left that game with an injury. Looked like he was, talking about his leg more so than his arm. So it seemed like maybe a bit of a leg issue that he was pointing to the trainers about. So that is good news necessarily. That is somewhat good news that it's not arm related, seemingly, but still, like maybe it's just simply a Jacob Mizrowski, cramping, lack of electrolytes kind of issue for him. But J.D. Thompson also walked 5 guys in that game in 1 2/3 innings. Lasted 1 2/3 innings, walked 5 batters in that time, and then left seemingly with a lower body injury. So we'll see what ends up happening on that front as well, but that's another thing to monitor. But on a positive note here, okay, because we do want to have a couple of positive notes. Number 1, Andrew Fisher homered again. It was a day ending in Y, so that means there was an Andrew Fisher homer. He's up to 16 on the season, so you do love to see that. But also, Luke Adams, speaking of power hitting corner infielders, Luke Adams made his return to the Nashville Sounds lineup. He had been out since April 11th. He had been dealing with a wrist injury. And obviously, you look at the numbers that he had for AAA, wasn't doing all too well. You wonder if the wrist injury was part of it. And so it kind of took him a while to feel better, feel stronger. So Luke Adams finally activated and back in the lineup for the Nashville Sound. So great to see him back. He's a prospect with a high ceiling, but also a very low floor. High on base percentage guy, gets hit by pitches a lot, hit by pitch machine, but also has some big time thump in the bat. Very big guy, but also has some strikeout potential. in there, and also hasn't hit for a super high average. Despite his on-base ability and seemingly power and contact ability, hasn't hit for a super high average. So very kind of polarizing prospect, but he's been in AAA this year, only played in a handful of games, but now he's finally back in there. So perhaps he can throw himself in the mix here for this Brewers infield at some point in the near future. So Luke Adams is back. Also, Quinn Priester back out on the mound. He was pitching in an Arizona Complex League game on Tuesday night. The Brewers officially transferred his rehab down there after struggling mightily in high A and in triple A and really just not being able to put stuff together. So they sent him to the Arizona Complex League. He goes 3 1/3, 2 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, but 4 strikeouts. So he's able to get the pitch count up, able to make it somewhat deeper into a game this time around. But also, granted, he is facing kids that are fresh out of high school, that are fresh out of the Dominican Republic. I mean, these are 17, 18-year-old kids, and basically their first full year in pro baseball that Priester has taken on. So, it's lower pressure, but also kind of a lower quality of opponent. So you would expect and you would hope that the results would be better. So, but hey, you got to take a win's a win, and just being able to keep the walks down a little bit, make it through 3 1/3. Those are positives that we're going to take there. Okay, so we got to talk about this here. Who in the heck is going to be starting today? Now, for some of you, if you're not watching this, as this video, first comes out, or kind of in the very early hours of when this podcast comes out, and you're watching this a bit later, that news might be out for you already. But as we're kind of talking about this initially, we don't know who the Brewers are going to have starting on the mound for Wednesday's game here. Pat Murphy would not tell us. He only said that there is a transaction coming, that whoever's going to be starting, it is going to require a transaction in order to be made. Pat Murphy said that pregame. He said that postgame. Still like, hey, look, like it's a transaction. We haven't talked about it yet. Haven't made it yet, so I can't talk about it. So who in the world could that transaction be, since it's not someone that's currently on this roster? Now, my initial guess would be Robert Gasser. Here's the thing, though. Robert Gasser has not been down long enough since he was last optioned to get called back up, unless there is an injury, unless there is an IL placement. Pat Murphy also oddly alluded in pregame on Tuesday to more injuries to come. He was kind of running down the list of injuries, like, oh yeah, Priester's hurt, and Woodruff's hurt, and Henderson's out, so a whole bunch of injuries and more to come on that front, which interesting. I mean, it's one thing to recognize that future injuries are going to end up happening, but it kind of seemed like there's something more near in the future here that he kind of knew was coming, that he's not telling us. So perhaps there's an injury to who? I don't know. I generally don't know who this injury could be to. But we're going to find out at some point. But that's what it would take for Robert Gasser to get the call up. If there is an injury, you would need that kind of placement. So that's very much a possibility. There's also the possibility that maybe it's Tyson Harden. Tyson Harden is my dark horse here. Harden was not doing well in AAA, had a 7.67 ERA, but the stuff was still good. The process was all still good. He gets promoted to AAA. He has a 0.96 ERA in 3 AAA starts. He has been phenomenal for the Nashville Sounds. Tyson Harden, one of the Brewers' top pitching prospects that they have. And he is also scheduled to start Wednesday night for AAA Nashville. According to their game notes and what they have coming up, Tyson Harden is starting Wednesday. Robert Gasser is starting Thursday. So those two are very much in play. With the last time that they pitched and when they're scheduled to pitch now, those two are very much in play to start these final 2 games of the series here for the Brewers. Pat Murphy, again, playing coy about it. You would have to create a 40-man roster spot for Tyson Harden, which wouldn't be that difficult. Quinn Priester to the 60-day would make a whole ton of sense. But could it be, a Jake Woodford getting sent out instead, perhaps? That's also maybe a possibility. But Tyson Harden's kind of my dark horse there as someone who the Brewers could call upon to make this spot start. Because, I mean, you already have Coleman Crow up. You already have Henderson on the IL. I mean, you just sent Carlos Rodriguez back down, and I don't think they would call on Carlos Rodriguez to start anyways. So where do they go? If they're going internal, and Pat Murphy did say post-game that it could be a call-up. Could be. So it's like, okay, he's not committing to anything, but it could be. Robert Gasser and Tyson Harden are really your only two options on that front. There's maybe a chance that it's someone external that they'd be coming in, but at the same time, if it's someone external, I find it hard to believe the Brewers would be teasing this much for a transaction that hasn't happened yet. You know, for getting in someone from the outside that hasn't happened yet, to get them in and then have them also start that very same night, I do find that one a bit tough to believe. So that leads me to believe that it's going to be internal. So I'm looking at Robert Gasser. I'm looking at Tyson Harden as the strongest possibilities here for who the Brewers are going to have start Wednesday night's game against the Giants. Who will it ultimately end up being? We'll all find out together. So be sure to follow me on Twitter at dgasper24. I will have that news as soon as it is available. As soon as I have it, I will get that news to you on Twitter at dgasper24. So follow me on there. And be sure to subscribe here to Brewers Daily as well. And we'll break it down, as we will throughout the entire season on this show. And appreciate all of you watching and listening. And we'll see you again next time for another episode of Brewers Daily.